leaping mark. A mark of the day contender, and he can go back and line them up.
Bruce to Ginnivan. He waits. They're trying to raffle it this time. On the end of it is McDonald, and they've got it back to within 4 points, the Hawks.
And McDonald runs forward. He gives to Chol, who takes a mark 25 out directly in front and can put the Hawks in front in the shadows of three-quarter time.
McDonald tries to knock it further. Oh, it bounced up to him. He ran away from his man. Straight from 40. On his way. No doubt that time. A goal to the Hawks, and they're back in front.
Spilling ball, indisputed ground level. There it is. The Hawks have done it again. This is a team that is coming.
The Rascals are rolling. Hawthorn made it 3 wins in a row, prevailing over the Giants in a hard-fought heart-stopper. There were many moments and many performances that helped make it happen. We're going to tackle a lot right here on the Hawk Talk podcast. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Nick Mason, and 'tis when a game is decided by a single goal, you look at the efforts that drags the team over the line, and so we must give a shout-out to Cal Shadir.
Cometh the moment, cometh the man. That was... Who was it that went down, actually? I don't think they even told us on the commentary, which can be forgotten, by the way. I hated that commentary team all game.
Oh, that was so bad. Dermot, well umpired, Brereton. Bloody hell. I mean, could he stop riding them, please? I mean, it's just getting so irritating.
The fascinating thing about this game, though, is we are so equal across the ground in our effort and in our output that if you look in the Herald Sun, only 4 players were above their usual output, whereas GWS had 6 above their usual output. So we did extremely well on the day. And you've only got to look at guys like Giath, who's got huge potential from here. I mean, he only had 10 touches, and he still kicked a goal and an under behind. And, you know, we're starting to think, how good can they be this year rather than in a couple of years? Like, what is the... Because you've got to reassess. A couple of months ago, you and I were pretty down because it didn't look great. Nothing was really gelling. Then we win, and we've just put together such a good string of form with Will Day back in the side and Gunston. I don't think that can be underlined enough. I mean, only 7 touches on the day, but he's so important as a defensive forward.
Jack Gunston with another 3 goals, and in the past 3 weeks he's kicked 4 against Brisbane, 3 against Adelaide, and 3 against the Giants.
Yeah, but it's 10 goals, but he has been playing a defensive role basically against Taylor. Right. The pressure on him at that age is incredible. Only 2 blokes over 30 in the whole team, Bruce and Gunston, and we are just looking terrific.
It's a little bit of that youthful exuberance, Tiz. It goes a long way. And what I really liked about that last play from Calgary is the footy IQ behind it. Do you see how far he runs off his man to make that contest? Because he just seizes the moment. He sees it, and then he seizes it, and it wins us the game.
Yeah.
And that, after the blue in the goal square, touching Josh Weddle's shot at goal, obviously quite regrettable, and it had a touch of the Nick Watsons about it. You know, going and following it up and making amends in such a major way, I just thought was fantastic. And the boys got around him as well.
Yeah, it's a preparedness. You know, you can fail or you can have a bad moment and you just get up and go for the next contest. We also see that kind of thing, and I saw this in the Herald Sun today. Nash got called out by Sam Mitchell for how prepared he is to go into any position to aid the side. And, did you see those 16 points on why Hawthorn are going to be great again? And I believe there's going to be an article tomorrow about how the AFL can stop it. I'm not sure, but it's nice to see some positive stuff coming out. So that's the first time we've seen Cal Shadir run out a game, right? Usually he gets subbed. I was feeling that he's probably getting to the limits of his ability physically as a young man. But that was not on display on the weekend in that last quarter. He was so gung-ho to win that game, with Reeves off as well. Amazing performance. The integrity of this group, they've got some real self-belief now.
What about these stats from Calcher? I really love the fact that he had 14 pressure acts and 6 tackles.
So even if he's not taking contested marks or bringing the ball to ground, you know, he is a presence that they need to be aware of when they're trying to move the ball out of defence?
Well, here's the thing. He had 8 disposals in all. It's a fairly modest game. He kicked, with those 8 disposals, 1 goal, 1, 3 contested marks, and they were absolute beauties as well, and 6 contested possessions. So almost every touch he's had has been hard at it and vital. It's mattered to the final score.
Mabior Chol up there is playing the best footy I've ever seen. I think I texted you during the game saying who had Mabior Chol down as a footballing genius, because he just kept his feet and paddled the ball past Taylor, and that was magnificent. That was just Hodge-like, he could do that kind of stuff.
Took him to the candy store about 4 times over in one play. That was incredible.
Yeah, he has that gait that sort of looks slower than it is, really, and he's starting to really put the wind up defenders because he's unpredictable to them.
Magnificent mark from Chol, but yes, the pressure on defenders is just awesome, and he's registering tackle numbers the likes of which his career hasn't seen before. He's applying that defensive pressure better than he did it at the Gold Coast, better than he did at Richmond, and inside just, I think, 10 games he's played. It's quite something. We have a very special recruit on our hands.
And not everyone had it all their way the whole day. I mean, James Worpel only had 4 touches in that first half.
Yeah, just the 4, yep.
And you're thinking, what's going on here? We can't live with this.
And so we didn't have to.
No. 16 touches, 4 clearances, and 4 scoring involvements with 3 inside 50s to complete the game in the second half. Really stood up when we needed him to.
The one that was named MVP in the end was outstanding. That was one Will Day, 26 touches at around 77% disposal efficiency. Let's run down the stats here. 6 marks, 4 clearances, 3 inside 50s, 5 rebound 50s, so he's doing it at both ends, 6 score involvements, 10 tackles, and a game-high 27 pressure acts in a game that's such a tight, contested sort of clash between these two clubs. That is vital to ensuring the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he is talismanic.
Well, there's no other word for it. I mean, I'm not of the belief that it's down to one player, but I'm also thinking it can't be a coincidence that he's back in the side and we're performing this well. There is something about it.
He's just a bloke that makes everyone better around him. He brings players in, he encourages players, he sets standards that others have to keep. I mean, the will of the guy at the contest, he never gives up, Will Day. It is leadership on field the whole time.
We touched upon it last podcast. We have a few in line for the captaincy eventually when Sicily's time is up. Will Day is absolutely in the frame there.
The last couple of weeks, I've been a little hot and cold on Josh Weddle.
Yeah, he listens, mate, clearly.
Well, I was going to say, it wasn't clear that he was going to do anything like he did, early in the game. Like, he had a lot of touches in the first quarter and was sort of being brought into it by errant kicks and reading the game well. But once Rees went off and we decided we had to put someone on the ball and he started playing in the ruck and he could show his athleticism, and then I think that's an all-time highlight for this year, where he gets it to McDonald and then he just puts it in from 40, 45 on the run. That to me is one of those moments you're going to look back on and go, well, this is the new Hawthorn here, and this is the start of it.
An incredible contribution from Weddle. As you say, it was Weddle everywhere, and it was out of necessity. Like, Reeves going off meant that we had to shuffle things around, and when I saw that, I really thought that our chances of winning the game took a huge hit. I just didn't think we were going to be able to cover it, and the fact that we did, it was a huge effort from the club to manage that, and Weddle was right at the heart of that.
Well, he went forward for a rest, kicked a goal. He almost kicked the goal, in a sense, which would have nearly ended the game there and then, wouldn't it?
Perhaps.
The development of these young guys is off the charts. You wouldn't have expected this.
The way that Weddle used the ball as well, 17 touches at 88.2% disposal efficiency is fantastic, and 444 metres gained. You mentioned this guy before, Connor Nash. He played a very important role. 20 disposals at 80% disposal efficiency.
Look at that DE. That is an amazing DE for Connor Nash. And he did. He had his kicking boots on. A couple of very fine passes.
But you got to be most impressed at his ability to lock players down, surely, because he had a big role on Green, which I think he wasn't the only one, but he did a power of work stopping their one of their stars, and then 8 contested possessions, 6 clearances, 7 tackles, to have 7 score involvements as well. He's a bit of an unsung hero this game, Nash.
That's why I'm singing him. That's why I'm singing his praises. It's nearly by, and he's put off his negotiations until the bye. So he wants to stay, apparently, from all reports.
Yeah, that's what we've heard. So the two that have been in the news in the past week for Hawthorn, Connor Nash is rumoured to want to stay, and that deal's going to get over the line in due course. And then we've got Blake Hardwick, who it's said he's going to sign for 5 years. It's just a matter of announcing that.
5 years. That's a big tick. That is confidence in Sam Mitchell and the path that they're on.
It's everything we hoped for, and I'm just bloody well glad that we played him forward. If that was the thing that secured his signature, great.
Has Josh Battle signed yet, or do we have to wait? Or
Well, Mitch Cleary says for St Kilda it's in the worrying stage, but I'm quite relaxed myself. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So
I don't know. That was a fairly convincing win on the weekend. Oh,
oh my word!
that is the plinth you can build a club on. Oh, we're cruel to St Kilda, but gee whiz, hey?
We need to shout out Seamus Mitchell for his job on Toby Green. A successful head-to-head.
Yeah, head-to-head is pretty much the thing. Toby Green had a huge gash down his scone. Like, he's not going to be...
No, there wasn't much of an impact from Toby Green. I think Hardwick went to him at some stage as well.
Are you sure we shouldn't have just put him on Xavier O'Halloran and really just blanketed that? Because that was odd.
Okay, let's briefly detour into a few things that on the day went a bit wrong.
That felt bad. Ronke-esque, although he kicked 7, didn't he, or something? That was ridiculous.
Yeah, something like that. And look at him now. Anyway, yeah, O'Halloran, not bitter at all. O'Halloran, ended up with 4. And again, this will sound like sour grapes, but that's not going to happen again. Like, when's that? That's just not going to happen again. And also, the other thing, again, another reason to be more bullish about Hawthorn is that opening half, we kick accurately. It's a completely different game.
All right, so I'm glad you brought this up. Because the expected score for Hawthorn is 102.
Yes.
We actually scored 85. The expected score for GWS, 88.
Yeah, so we win. Statistically, we win.
That's a 14-point victory versus the 6 that we actually had.
Look, I see that first half and I think to myself, okay, well, it's not as if the Giants were dominating. The supply was there for Hawthorn. Things were working. But when it came to being masters of our own destiny, we weren't making it happen in front of goal. And again, that's like the O'Halloran stuff. That's not going to happen every week. So I'm more than comfortable with that.
Our pressure was better than theirs the whole game. And that last quarter, we had a pressure of 213 versus 184.
Excellent.
Which is massive, which we absolutely needed because Briggs was just clearing it whenever he took it out of the ruck.
I mean, Green right at the end applied a fair bit of pressure, and I thought that was a good effort.
That's a free kick every day of the week, isn't it?
It's a free kick every day of the week. If that happens at any other time of the game, off the ball, which it was, because he'd already kicked it, that's a free kick.
Marginally after he kicked it.
You can't do it. You can't do it. My understanding, even before this year, is that's paid. But especially this year, I've seen it a lot.
The other thing was, I heard Bruce interviewed after the game, and there was a bit of conjecture amongst the players. They thought he would kick a point just to get the lead, which is interesting because he, goes back, kicks the goal, and then we have to defend a centre clearance. And you have to go back to the 6-6-6 model and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that was interesting. It shows that the players are thinking about what's the best case scenario to shut this game out.
Well, it tells me that Luke Bruce doesn't look at the scoreboard because he wasn't aware of the margin.
How does that happen?
I don't know. For a guy that's played so many games, I don't quite know how that happens.
Well, perhaps that makes it easier to kick the goal if you don't know the score.
Ignorance is bliss. He might have been more settled.
Kicking it in a vacuum,
I mean, he was the perfect guy to take that kick. That just played out beautifully for us.
Another victory, and we were very, very good inside 50, like 15 marks inside 50.
Was it 15 in the end? Wow.
It's great to watch, mate. I'm getting very excited. Now we have Richmond, but I can't see them getting anywhere near us, mate.
Oh, come on. At the risk of coming across all David King, let's just settle it down. Settle it down. No, I mean, I'm... The only reason I have reservations about this week, and we'll get to a preview later, is just the milestone. They'll be up and about for it, Richmond, and so they should. That's the only thing that causes me concern.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fantastic weekend all round for the Brown and Gold because we had a great win over the VFL Giants. Box Hill cruising to a 68-point win.
The commentators there were saying how undermanned GWS were, but still, like, we were sensational. Harry Morrison doesn't want to stay there much longer, or else he's looking to contract elsewhere. 31 disposals, 4 tackles, 3 clearances, 13 marks, and I don't think anybody touched him the whole day. 10 scoring involvements.
It didn't seem like it, and he was doing it all over the park. He took some good defensive relieving marks as well, which I quite liked.
I also enjoyed Bennett's, especially early on in the game. He had 21 touches for 2 goals, but his work rate in that first quarter was amazing.
Josh Bennett's I've been a fan of since he arrived, and this at the moment feels a little bit like, please retain me. Don't delist me. And, you know, he stakes a good claim to staying on the list. I think he looks very good. Unfortunately, he could be squeezed out at season's end. And, it might be a bit sad for him.
It is, but you got to say, he is putting in and he wants to stay.
Oh, he's a great little player.
Finn McGuinness is just powering through again. 29 touches, 5 tackles, 8 inside 50s. Bit of a change of role there. And 11 scoring involvements. Just shading Harry.
So the thing I like about that is the 8 inside 50s for 11 score involvements suggests to me that he might have been using the footy pretty well.
Yeah.
Which is something that we've had a bit of a knock on Finn's game for some time about that. Do you happen to have any stats? Am I on the right path with this suspicion or not?
I wouldn't have put him down as our best ball retainer on the weekend, but he's definitely improved in that mode. It's just that he's getting to a point where he's demanding the football by his positioning on field, and that's really the difference. Josh Ward was also very good.
But is he good enough, Tiz? That is the ultimate question at this point.
Is it?
Well, okay. I looked into this a little bit earlier today. Not as much of a ticking clock as some people seem to make out. He's contracted to the end of 2025. So it's not that urgent just yet, but I can understand why people would be a bit nervous for him.
Well, I mean, it's just about the expectation, isn't it? The expectation on Ward was massive, and we've now noticed him being tried in a few different positions, and none of them are really kicking for him. The real aspect of it is there's got to be an injury at the moment. He's not going to force his way back into that lineup without someone coming out, and that midfield's going too well at the moment, really.
I'd suggest this guy finds himself in the same sort of predicament. Jai Sarong is travelling pretty well still at VFL. He shows he's very capable. 26 touches and 10 marks. I thought he played really well. And this other guy, Henry Hustwaite, who is a bit of an unsung hero. I mean, check out these stats. 21 touches, but then a game-high 11 contested possessions, a game-high 9 clearances, a game-high 7 tackles. He's leading some big areas there.
Yeah, so this is fantastic. These guys want to be in the lineup every week, and they are pushing for selection. And if you've got this kind of pressure happening in the VFL and they're producing results like, the game was over at half time, basically.
Yes.
But they still pushed to win by 68. And, we haven't even mentioned Nick Watson or Max Ramsden. But these guys are going to be putting pressure on those above them. And that is so good for the club.
Max Ramsden in particular, his past fortnight has been sensational. And Nick Watson, I mean, what else can you say at this point? Like, you are beginning to really see why he earns that nickname, the Wiz. One of his goals in particular, I think he kicked 4, didn't he, in the end?
Yeah, he kicked 4 goals too. He could have kicked, maybe 8 if he was a little bit less unselfish.
I think he had a couple of goal assists, but one in particular was just taking the absolute piss. It's going to happen. I say it every week. It's going to happen.
But his field kicking is great too. Actually, someone, debutant, Jasper Scaife.
Yes.
His field kicking, very, very nice. And his goal kicking, just his rhythm in kicking a set shot goal, that is phenomenally good to see. No, he's got a broad chest. He's not afraid to use the physicality, and I don't think I've been that excited about a bloke debuting in the VFL for a long time.
Yeah, he looked good, didn't he? There's something intimidating about him. There's something about his stature and how he presents on the field. Just, you wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alley. Let's put it that way.
No, there's a bit of the alpha there, and to think, never played there before, never played with this group of guys. He knows all the eyes are on him, and for him to just show up, only 10 touches, but kicked an unerring goal, and it had a bit of a swagger.
Yeah, I did quite enjoy that. There were a couple of times where I thought, yes, there's the bully I saw in the highlights.
Yeah. You didn't think Barry Hall, did you?
Oh, no, not quite the same, but I don't know. I don't mind a bit of mongrel. I mean, apart from Denver, we don't see that much at Hawthorn at the moment.
Scary Scaife could be a thing.
Scary Scaife. Don't mind that at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if BT came out with that. Gee, I'm enjoying being this close to Melbourne on the ladder, Chief. Oh, it is sensational. Sorry, BT brought me back to how poor some of the commentary was for that game. But seeing Melbourne unbelievably at a loss.
Well, one of our listeners, Reese, wanted to know how much you enjoyed that game.
Look, I felt bad when I realised I was smiling after I read about Petrarca today.
That's cold.
It is a bit cold. But they just leave too much up to these guys, and I've been waiting for it to come home to roost, that you leave it up to Petrarca and Oliver and Gawn. And for some reason, Gawn at his age never falls over or has an injury. So
I must admit, when I saw the results, I did think of you, and I started to think to myself, do we play this mob again? Do we play him twice this year? Or do we?
We don't play him unless it's a final.
Oh,
unless it's a final.
There it is. Hey, mate, hold on. I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself. They have to make finals first.
They do. They do have to make finals first, Melbourne.
Look, you set me up for the perfect segue. It was volleyball-esque. I was going to spike it, and I think I have to call it back to that point. Because you mentioned how Max Gawn never gets injured. And I have the injury list for Hawthorn right in front of us here. And there's a lot of names on it, but it's not bad news, if that makes sense. You'll see what I mean as we run through it. First of all, Clay Tucker is available. He's recovered from concussion protocols. Mitch Lewis seems to be finally in the frame. He's on the cusp of a return. He's marked as a test, but I would say that he probably doesn't return till after the bye.
Box Hill, or where are you putting him?
Well, Deer's due a rest. I think as much as I want to see Deer play.
Look at you. What a turncoat.
You know how high I am on Kalsha. I don't want to rest him either, but he's what? He's like 19 years old?
Yeah, he's got a bye, mate. He'll be good.
Okay, all right.
He gets 1 week off. He'll be fine.
Okay, no room for Lewis then. We just won't play him. Too bad, mate. 2 or 3 months, we moved on.
Mate, I'm sorry. We have to play him. You're right. We've got to get the trade value up.
Seriously pressing my buttons today, mate. Don't love it. So Mitch Lewis is a test. Lloyd Meek is also marked down as a test. You would think that he'd be right. I mean, he was sort of in the frame last week. We all thought he wouldn't get up, and that was the case, but he's back as a test here. Ned Reeves sustained a back injury during the game. He's marked down as a test. Now we've got a string of players that are 1 week away from availability. So let's run through them here. Bailey McDonald with a hip complaint. Jack O'Sullivan still recovering from his hamstring injury. Chad Wingard didn't play out the VFL. He didn't return for the second half, citing a bit of calf soreness.
Oh, I heard it was general soreness during the match, but calf, okay.
Oh, well, I only mention it as calf because it's listed here on the injury list. I think at the time it was just reported as general soreness. And look, it's not as if he needed to be out there. We were in control. It's fine.
Got to be cautious at his age, and he's already had an injury, probably the same calf, I would imagine, so...
No, it makes perfect sense. Will McCabe is now only 1 week away.
Tell you what, that Box Hill team is going to be really good. That spine is going to be looking good there.
Pun intended.
We don't have Phillips back yet, do we?
No, but he's 1 week away.
Okay.
So there's a lot going right for Box Hill at the moment in terms of reinforcements. And then this one sort of bemused me a bit. Cooper Stevens with his Achilles, suddenly 1 week away. What is going on there? Because I feel like doing this show over the past 3 weeks, I've said he was 4 to 5 weeks away, then he was TBC, and now he's 1 week. So, some combination of that. So I'm a bit bewildered as to how that could be the case. But look, he needs to be fit and firing because he's playing for a spot on the list. Simple as that. Anyway, mate, we should move on to preview this clash against Richmond. Richmond versus Hawthorn at the MCG, Saturday, 4:35pm. And I'm wondering, with all that being said about the seniors, the VFL, the injury list, what changes are we likely to make?
Well, we bring Meek in.
I'd say so, yep.
That's a big change. The changes are all on the Richmond side. They're bringing back Dusty, they're bringing back Lynch. They've got so many injuries, Richmond, that we should be very confident going into this game.
It really is just a milestone that makes them a bit of a wild card for mine. Otherwise, I'm not too worried about our performance. I'm concerned about what they're going to throw at us, if that makes sense. But we had a question here from JK06. How do we play Ginnivan and Watson in the same forward line? And who makes way for Lewis? Surely not Gunston. Well, we'll get to the Lewis stuff when he's actually confirmed to be coming back. I don't think it's going to happen this week. But Ginnivan and Watson in the same forward line, that was happening earlier this year.
Like, that is mouth-watering.
Oh, absolutely.
And to be honest, you don't want Watson becoming an excellent VFL player. So you just elevate him. I think Bruce is coming on and having an impact, but also you can't really have Watson as a sub. He's too tiny.
We can shuffle things around. This came up last week. And I know he doesn't deserve to be dropped, so I'll just get out ahead of that. But Seamus Mitchell, if you omit him, move Hardwick into defence and plug Watson into the forward line, that would be the go there.
Yeah, if he's signed, Hardwick plays defence. That's how it works.
He's made a rod for his own back there, hasn't he?
But you just got to see him. And to be honest, looking at Richmond, and if you can get behind them, I think you can score fairly rapidly.
I mean, they only just got over Adelaide. Let's not get too carried away. So they've had a win. I watched the end of that. It wasn't exactly inspiring.
No, but Adelaide are deplorable. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. They're in as bad a form as I've seen.
Yeah, they've taken a huge backward step or two. Scamasaurus asks, who plays on Dusty, Hardwick or Weddle? Well, I imagine it'll be a combination of the two.
I think they'd put Weddle on him, just so he learns how Dusty reads the ball and what he's capable of. I think it's a great instructive lesson for the kid.
You know, Hawthorn's been on a bit of a revenge tour lately. I mean, we cashed in on Adelaide. We kept that receipt. Giants as well. We lost close games to both of those clubs last year. And I think coming up against Richmond, they spoiled Silk's party, and it's time to spoil Dusty's.
Fair enough. I mean, we haven't beaten them for a long time. It feels like 2016. Oh, there was that weird, I think it was the first round after lockdown. We played them and beat them. But that was, off the charts. So,
mate, I'll grab your tip, but first we'll get to some social media stuff. Hawkers everywhere, I find, are hungrier than ever for all things brown and gold, which is great to see, and we are here for them at the Hawk Talk podcast. We'd love for you to spread the word about the show if you enjoy it. Direct fellow Hawthorn fans to the Hawk Talk podcast, whether it's through word of mouth or a rating or a review, wherever you're listening to this. Would really appreciate that. Meanwhile, how good is it when the brown and gold community is up and about? We love chatting with all of you on our social channels after a win, so get on board with us at X, Facebook and Instagram. And finally, as always, we salute our proud, passionate and paid up Patreon subscribers who support the show in very real terms. Your contributions really do help us put time into this podcast week in, week out. The latest to come on board, Christopher and T-Stock. Shout out to you both. Thanks so much for your support. The subscription tier they both selected gives them access to an entire archive of bonus Hawk Talk podcast content. They're going to have access to the bonus stuff coming out real soon too, including our mid-season review. So, if you're listening to this, thinking you'd like to show the podcast some love and get some extra content, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/HawkTalkPod.
Now, apart from these good victories, there was one victory on the weekend for the club that was just awe-inspiring, I think is the word.
Yeah, you think the scoreline elevates it a bit above good?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this team is up and about some weeks and not really hitting the goals the next week, but 14-8-92 defeating Geelong, 2 points for the game in the VFLW. That is enormous.
They really recaptured some mojo, which is fantastic to see, and Geelong seem to be destined for the wooden spoon, so I'm not sure how much to read into this, but nevertheless, it was an almighty thumping from the Box Hill VFLW side. Tamara Luke kicked 4 goals, we know how good she is. Mietta Kendall, one of my favourites, bobbed up with 2, while Jess Matten and Gabrielle Collingwood matched her with 2 each themselves. And worth noting that that's it for the AFLW inclusions now, mate, because our AFLW team, their pre-season's underway, so I don't imagine we'll be seeing any of them for the Box Hill side. But nevertheless, the Hawks have climbed back in a second spot on the VFLW ladder. There's a huge clash against North Melbourne ahead in what is the penultimate round of the season. So it's all coming to a bit of a crescendo now for the VFLW. Also, speaking of AFLW stuff, Bridie Hipwell just re-signed through to the end of 2027. Some news that just broke before we hit record.
Now, if we go to some other red time items, we have Daniel has realised over the weekend that we haven't missed Brockman at all.
I've found myself thinking that at various points of the season.
He's looked okay for West Coast. I did have a few looks at him, but he's got some off-field issues at the moment. So
yeah, I mean, this is not mentioned to denigrate him in any way. We'll obviously wish him well, but it is true that the way our list is looking, our list profile, we've covered that pretty well, I'd say, which is a good thing for Hawthorn.
AB, is Ward finished at the club, top pick, and can't get a game?
Well, it's as I said, we need to extinguish the panic around that because he is signed through to the end of 2025, and I get that he is a top 10 draft pick, but, there's still a lot of time. There's a lot to play out here.
And also, I think Sam needs to find the best role for him. I don't think he's managed to find the best role for... We've seen Ward have fantastic games on the G too. Don't disregard that. He's had some very, very good games. He's just finding it hard to get selected because every time he looks likely, something goes wrong for him.
Yeah, and I think the fact is that it's really hard to be in that first string midfield for Hawthorn. Those positions are occupied. Like we have our first shift, our A-grade shift, as I said last week, and that's where he wants to be. But unless there's suspensions or injury or form issues, he's not breaking in there. There's a few guys that have the same issue.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Enns wants to know, what are your views on us getting Josh Battle? And my views are, welcome Josh.
Yeah, I'm all for it. A versatile, tall. He's proven that he's a good defender. He can go forward, and he's got the right age profile for us. I think he's 25, 26.
He's got a fantastic self-control about him.
And then there's all the battle puns, which I think is fantastic for me.
I fully expect him to arrive at Hawthorn.
It's getting to a stage where, round 13, and the noise has just been growing and growing, and it's all with Hawthorn as well, specifically. I think when stuff like that happens, when it is so targeted and so focused, that, the saying is where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that's the case here.
Well, I mean, he's been a Hawthorn devotee for many years.
That's true, yeah. There was a photo of a very young Battle going around wearing brown and gold.
And as you know, that's all you need to be to get on the list at Hawthorn. So
it's one of the essential criteria. We do appear to look for that.
Oh, that's too hard, isn't it? Do I have to answer this one?
This question from Ed. What's your current top 3 for this year's PCM? I mean, we're going to address this properly in our mid-season review, but let's, off the top of our heads, let's just go rapid-fire responses, all right? I'm going to do this without much thought. I'm going to say Day, Frost, Moore.
Moore, Meek, Sicily.
Yeah, I like that. I like how we're quite different there.
We going to the PCM this year?
How much is it?
I don't know if they've even released it yet. You're off to Geelong though, aren't you, for the game?
Yes, I am. And I'm a bit nervous about that one.
I saw a lot of listeners and people on X are off to Geelong and looking excited about it, and the Cats are starting to wane, mate. Can we confirm the cliff when we're down there?
Yes, fingers crossed. I want to make a bit of a day of it and hopefully capped off with a win. But that's a few weeks down the track, mate. Right now we're looking at Richmond. Now, to end the podcast this week, I want to get your tip and your final thoughts on the game.
I imagine that Richmond come out, really trying to get a big lead and then try to defend against us, and I think we just run over the top of them by the end of the game. And I think we definitely should be expecting that as fans now after the last couple of months.
Yeah, it's well within our powers to dominate Richmond. We've done it against better sides. We've also demonstrated the ability to claw our way back into games. And if it plays out as you're expecting, that Richmond get the ascendancy...
I just don't think they can come back from being behind, so they have to try and get a lead early in the match.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right with that one, but I would expect that we win. I mean, most people would expect that we win. What does it mean to you if Hawthorn drops this game? Because we've all been up and about.
It means that they probably got too carried away on the day. If they get done in a style like Port Adelaide, well, that's just a learning experience. But if they get done by a fair margin, then something's gone wrong with the playing group. They didn't come to defeat Richmond, and they mustn't have expected the intensity that they came with. I mean, we're a young team. I've been surprised we've been this consistent. So there's always a chance you're going to have a blip, and it could be this week, but I'd be pretty certain they'd be ready. It's just that having the bye the following week may have them looking at, the break.
I'm expecting a blip. I'd be fairly deflated if it was against Richmond, even though I know everything that's on the line for Richmond and how they want to show up for Dusty, but they're just not that good. They're not that good, Richmond. If we're going to have a blip, I want it to be against a team at least around us on the ladder or above us. I think it would be much more palatable. So, look, I'm fingers crossed that we don't have that blip this week, but I'm sort of prepared for it.
I feel like we've beaten everyone below us, Nick, so if that's any indication, we should be fine. And we should be fine again after the bye when we play West Coast.
I'd say so, and then we should be fine the week after that, and the week after that, and then roll into the qualifying final. Note, qualifying final. I don't even know if that's mathematically possible.
I think everything's mathematically possible at this point. But I think we'll have a bumper crowd. It's going to be a fantastic atmosphere. And it'll be a real cauldron-like experience for our young men who've been excellent for the past few weeks. And they deserve our confidence.
It will be a cracking contest, I feel. And you're so right. It's going to be a bumper crowd. They're expecting over 80,000. We will be among them, and of course, we'll be back next week to recap all the action, win, lose, or draw, right here on the Hawk Talk podcast. We are a happy team at Hawthorn.